Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode number 177. I am Brendan. Bellator 286 prelims. We're going to go over the prelims here if you're looking for the main event, including in the rest of the main card that's in the last video. We're going to go over Miguel Peimbert versus Bobby Seronio, Islam Mamedov versus Nick Browne, J.J. Wilson, Vladimir Tokov, and we're going to go over the rest of the prelims here. Fight by fight, break them down a little bit. Before we get started, if you're new to the channel, if you like MMA, subscribe. I do 2 or 3 videos a week breaking down fights in Bellator, UFC, PFL, all that stuff. So if you like that stuff, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. All right, let's go. Okay, the featured prelim, Bobby Seronio versus Miguel Peimbert. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Seronio was just unrelenting here. He was when he was on a takedown attempt and he lifted him twice and he finally got his back on the second one. Not a ton of damage either way in that first round, but a ton of control for Bobby here. 10-9, easy first round for him. Seronio got another lift and a takedown early in the second round, right into half guard. Bobby with back control on top the whole time, and an easy round for him in the second. And the third round was just more of the same. Bobby just taking him down, controlling him. Not the most exciting fight, but a good win for him. Easy win, 30-27 on my scorecard. It's a good win for him. All right, this was a good fight here. It was I say while it lasted, but there were moments that were exciting, and then there was a lot of grappling in this one as well. So Islam Mamedov versus Nick Browne. Browne got the better on the feet, and when Islam was shooting in, Browne tried to lock in a triangle. He had a decent triangle. He just couldn't get it, and Islam was positioned really well and scooted out and got out of there. So Islam, with the control time in that first round, might have stole it because on the feet it wasn't exactly one-sided. So the striking didn't go in the favor of Nick Browne, so much so that it outdid the control and the little bit of damage that Mamedov did on the ground. So I gave the first round to Islam, 10-9. Browne got a little lazy when exiting for combos. It looked like he was getting a little bit tired, and Islam was starting to catch him, got a takedown, and controlled the entire round. The second round, 20-18, and then the third round was more of the same. So getting the win here, getting the win on my scorecard, 30-27, good win for Islam. It's hard to gauge like how good he is, but he will be going into the lightweight Grand Prix that is happening, I believe, next year. So he'll get more tests hopefully in that than he did from Nick Browne. Nick Browne isn't a bad fighter by any means, but I think he was just a little bit outclassed, and it came to the grappling, and that was a big part of his game plan. It looked like going in. Okay, J.J. Wilson versus Vladimir Tokov. Beautiful grappling from these guys, and Wilson got a toss and captured the arm. He looked for an armbar, but Tokov escaped it. It was great. Great positioning, great movement. Wilson started attacking from the back, from his back, so he was on the back. Tokov defended really well, landed a little bit of ground and pound in between when he could, in between the submission attempts. Wilson was really aggressive off his back, but none of those submission attempts were close to finishing the fight. So more of the damage was coming from Tokov. So one of the arguments that Big John McCarthy was making was the fact that J.J. Wilson was trying to finish the fight with those submissions. And I've pushed back against him. I did it last week, and I'll push back against him right now. So just because you're going for submission attempts doesn't necessarily mean you're any closer to finishing the fight than someone who's on top laying down ground and pound, regardless of how... So significance does matter. If I land a hook to your body when I'm on top of you on the ground, and you attempt a triangle and try to lock me in, and then I push back into it. So neither one of us really was trying to finish or got close to finishing the fight there, right? And yes, you were trying to finish the fight with that triangle, but I'm trying to do damage to you to possibly open you up and move into a better position. And then cumulative damage does count. The problem is submission attempts do not give you cumulative damage. They're damage, so they're quote unquote damage because it's not physical damage in the same way unless you're like literally breaking something, right? It's how close are you to finishing the fight? If you are in a position that you're about to finish the fight with a submission attempt, that does count for quite a bit, okay? But what led up to that does not count for anything other than control time. So if one person is laying down ground and pound and you're going for submission attempts and neither one of them, is close to finishing the fight at any moment in time, I would consider those two things canceling each other out, okay? So you can have control from your back by controlling the person on top, but you're losing that fight if all you're doing is controlling him, right? If I'm on bottom and you're in my mount and I'm just holding you down, trying to stall, who's winning that fight? You are, all right? Just by positional advantage. It doesn't mean that I couldn't finish the fight if I went for a submission. It doesn't mean that you couldn't finish the fight if you went for a submission or ground and pound. But the point is that positional advantage does count for something when all other things are being equal. So in this scenario, I said all other things are probably equal, but I gave the damage and the positional stuff to Tokov in that first round, whereas John McCarthy said, hey, Wilson was trying to finish the fight. That doesn't mean anything. You can wing like that statement. Take that statement out. Let's take that statement and analyze it, separate from what we were just seeing. He was trying to finish the fight, therefore, he did more. Trying to finish the fight, under the definitions of the judging criteria, would be something like aggression. Okay? And yeah, it could count into control time as well, depending on the positions, but in this case, it's aggression. Walking someone down and winging giant punches, regardless of whether or not they hit, but in this example, I'm going to say they don't hit, that counts for aggression. It does not count for damage, and it can count for octagon control. Like I said, the submission stuff could count for control as well, but we're talking about aggression. Aggression, by definition, under the judging criteria, is scored below damage. Therefore, if you don't think J.J. Wilson, which I don't, I'm not of the opinion that J.J. Wilson in this first round was anywhere near finishing by submission. Now, he did have a good one with the armbar on Tokov, but Tokov got out of it relatively quick, so that position did not linger, and there was no real... it wasn't that close to being finished, right? We weren't moments away from him tapping. Now, on Tokov's side, he was in top position doing little bits of ground and pound. Were they fight-ending punches? No, not a single one of them. But here's the thing. Can you end a fight with punches that individually would not end the fight? Absolutely. Happens all the time. If you get mount and you just start doing pity-pat shots and the other guy isn't defending himself, guess what? You can get a TKO finish. That happens all the time. So, this first round, by definition, letter of the law, going off of the judging criteria and what they should be looking for, based on how I saw it, Tokov should have got this first round 10-9. Now, if you were to make the argument that J.J. Wilson was closer to finishing the fight with that armbar and that maybe one of the triangles that he threw up or something was very close to finishing the fight, right? If you were to make that argument and to present it in that way, and that's why you graded it ahead of what Tokov was able to do in this round with his control and the damage from on top, then absolutely, you can give it to Wilson. If you made that argument. That's not the argument that was coming from Big John McCarthy, though. The argument was he was trying to finish the fight, therefore, no. Trying to finish the fight doesn't mean anything if you're getting out damaged. If you walk someone down and they're constantly peppering you with jabs and you're missing wildly with big swinging hooks, who's winning that fight? Is he trying to finish the fight with those jabs? No. Are you trying to finish the fight with those big swinging hooks? Absolutely. You're trying to knock the guy out. Doesn't matter. Trying to finish the fight counts for nothing other than aggression by itself. Trying to finish the fight. Finishing the fight is one thing. Doing damage leading up to trying to finish the fight, or like while trying to finish the fight, counts. That's something that we can score. That is a criteria that we look at. But to say he was trying to finish the fight, therefore, is wrong. That's a wrong way to look at it, and I don't like that he says this on broadcast. It gives people the wrong impression about what to look for when it comes to scoring, and it can create a false narrative that will lead to, this is Bellator, and it was on the prelims, so I don't know how many people really saw it, but this kind of narrative, which he has spout before, can cause issues when people are viewing MMA from a lens of someone who doesn't maybe necessarily understand, didn't go through the judging criteria, the new updated criteria rules. Okay, I went on a rant about this last week, and he said he said something very similar again this week. So clearly, John McCarthy has it in his head of a way that he views a fight, and that's his opinion. Right? Daniel Cormier has opinions about grappling. Who else does this? Dominic Cruz, who I love, has opinions when it comes to grappling and how it should score. Absolutely. Kenny Florian has talked about this when it comes to submission attempts. Absolutely. You're allowed to have your opinions and make your arguments. But your arguments need to be take into context the judging criteria that we have and that we have agreed upon, that damage is first, everything else is graded on not necessarily a sliding scale, but on a lower point basis. Damage is number one. If you do more damage, you should win the round. It's not always what we get, but that's what it should be. But okay, so I don't want to take away from these guys fighting, because boy oh boy did they have, this was really beautiful grappling. I loved watching this fight. There wasn't a ton of striking, wasn't messing around on the feet a lot. It was a lot on the ground. Wilson was very active from his back. Fun to watch, great fight. It was amazing. I love active grappling like this. It's fun to watch. Tokov got the takedown early in the second round, and Wilson was playing off his back, and he didn't really do anything. So in the second round, he didn't get any submission attempts. Nothing was really going up, and Tokov was able to control him the whole time. So that second round went to Tokov. I had him up 2018. Wilson was finally able to sweep in this last round and get the body triangle. And then Tokov got out, gets on top in the guard. Some great exchanges from both guys, maneuvering back and forth, changing their position, trying to switch. Oh my God, it was beautiful. I really recommend it. This is on YouTube. Go watch if you like grappling, or if you generally don't like MMA grappling because you consider it boring, or you don't think it's as exciting as striking, that's fine. But I would implore you to go watch this fight. And this is what MMA grappling should look like. This is one of the versions of it that should exist. Right? This is not laying and praying. This is not two guys trying to stall. These are both guys at high levels trying to to implement their game plan on their opponent in every facet of MMA. It was fantastic. And yeah, like I said, there wasn't a ton of striking, but on the ground, it was just beautiful to watch. It was really fun. I enjoyed watching this fight. Wilson actually gets a triangle attempt at the end of the round, but Tokov slipped out the back, and because this last round went in the favor of Wilson. He had more control. He was on top. He was on the back now. He had better submission attempts, clearly getting him the win getting him this last round in my opinion. I still had it 29-28 to Tokov because of those first two rounds, but it was a split decision win. Two judges saw it 29-28 the other way, giving Wilson that first round. I'm okay with it. This is not a robbery. All right? You also have to be level-headed when it comes to these things when you're analyzing fights. Right? I've spoke to this before. I'll speak to it again. I think it's important to reiterate and reiterate these things. The judges do not have the striking numbers in front of them, right? They don't have the ability to walk around and go watch the fight from different angles. They don't have camera. They're not looking at the camera angles. Now, we can argue of whether or not they should. Fine, but given what they have now, I think this fight was judged really fairly. right? And not for the reason that John McCarthy, I am not agreeing with John McCarthy here. I made my argument and I presented it to you that you can give that first round to Wilson and not have the same opinion that John McCarthy did, right? Those two things do not, like that Venn diagram is not a circle, okay? Those two things can be mutually exclusive. And when I said you have to be level-headed about this stuff, you have to understand, like I said, that the judges aren't privy to the views and everything that you see. They don't have commentary walking you through what's going on, whether it's right or wrong, and coloring their opinions. It's all based off of what they're seeing from their point of view. So they might think a strike lands harder than it does. They might think a submission attempt is deeper than it is and closer to finishing the fight. It might be. They might have a better view than you or I. They might see something that we don't. And you have to give them a little bit of leeway. There is a lot of subjectivity when it comes to scoring these fights. And that first round was close. I saw it for Tokov for the reasons I laid out. But I also said if you made the argument that Wilson getting that submission attempt, you thought it was closer than it was, or you thought him being active off his back and got to some other submission attempts, it didn't take a lot of damage. If you were to make that argument to me from your point of view, from what you saw, I would accept that, and that's fine. So this is not a robbery, okay? Not a robbery. I don't agree with it based off of what I saw, but not a robbery. It doesn't have to be one or the other, right? Not everything's black and white. We can all meet in the middle and have a civil discussion about some of this shit. Not everybody's evil and out to get you because they don't agree with you. All right, Khalid Murtazaliev versus Hadzi Bestayev. Some good, strong Eastern European names there, boy. Leg kicks early from both guys, throwing them really hard, but Khalid was landing harder. He was just landing way harder. This guy was, dude, his kicks, they sounded like they hurt. They had like a ton of thud to them. They had force. They had like the slapping kicks even seemed hard. And then Khalid, that first round, all that damage went to Murtazaliev. And then in the second round here, Khalid got the hard double leg takedown, and after landing a nasty kick that threw him off balance, and again then he worked to mount, getting the TKO and ending the fight. A beautiful striking example when it comes to kick heavy offense. Murtazaliev based off this fight, it looks excellent. I think hopefully that can transition into some higher level fights and some better competition. I'm very excited to watch him fight going forward. This guy, so his wrestling pedigree is very high. His grappling skills and IQ is through the roof, and he can hit hard, and he's got nasty kicks. Now he doesn't have like Usman, Mamedov type kicks where they're coming from weird angles and stuff, but the fact that he's kicking with that kind of force is something to look out for, guys. Sumiko Inaba versus Nadine Mandau. Okay. Nadine was standing straight up, holding her chin really up high. So how she's standing right here in this picture that she took, that's pretty much how she stood the entire fight. Stood up high. Nadine got a sloppy single leg takedown. Both women having their moments, landing decent shots. Inaba finding the chin much more, and then at the end with a really good combo, ending in with a step-in elbow. Inaba hurt her on the feet, got the easy takedown. Both women having tons of holes in their game, but Inaba clearly got that first round 10-9. Inaba landed landing a lot of damage to that non-moving head in the second round. Submission attempts from Nadine to end the round, but it's not enough to undo all of those fists to the face that she took in that second round. Inaba clearly the more competent striker on the feet. 2018, and then Nadine didn't give up, but her technique just isn't there. And like the last round was real, like a real slop fest. I had it 30-27 Inaba. Not exactly the most exciting fight to watch, but hey, I think Inaba has a little bit better of a future. Nadine is 2-6, and Inaba's 5-0 now. So I think that mismatch was pretty evident. Weber Almeida versus Ryan Lilly. This was not a good fight, guys. Weber was keeping his distance, landing low kicks, and then Almeida, who is a disciple of Lyoto Machida with a karate stance. Neither guy really landing anything of note until Weber landed a shot to the nuts on Weber. I had it 10-9 for Almeida. He landed way more. His output was higher. He landed, I think, like triple. He had triple the output of Lily. This was not a good fight, though, guys. It was boring. Almeida refused to really engage. He kept trying to throw leg kicks at a distance to try to pull Lily's offense out, and Lily was refusing to kind of move forward and spent the most of the time moving back. The whole fight was kind of centered around leg kicks. Second round went to Weber as well. Jason Herzog, this is how bad the fight was and how little activity. Jason Herzog pulled them to the center before the third round started, and he said, hey, you guys need to engage. And I'm not giving you a warning anymore. You've had plenty of time to feel this out. These are like his words. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm using words that he also used. He said, there's no more feeling out. Like, you need to engage. So the last round sucked. The last round sucked too. It was a little bit more active, but I had it 30-27 for Weber. Weber has some skills, and but every time he would get tagged, he would backpedal hard and run away. Not using, he wasn't staying in the pocket and using head movement. He was like really backpedaling and sidestepping around the cage to try and get away. All right, weird mismatch here. Lance Gibson versus Dominic Clark. Clark is 15-13 here. Lance Gibson is 7-0. Gibson has some skill. Clark came out hard. He got tight on a takedown. Gibson got back up. Clark kept the body lock and dumped him down into half guard against the cage, but then Clark got caught in a triangle. Beautiful finish for Gibson. This fight was not close. That was not a great one to watch. Not a great one to watch as far as like you weren't seeing a ton of back and forth. It's kind of a blowout. All right, that is it for the prelims here. I'm done covering Bellator this week. If you're looking for the UFC event, those will be coming out later today. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. If you made it this far in a Bellator prelim video, subscribe to the channel. You'll like the other videos I put out. I break down fights in UFC, Bellator, PFL, 1FC sometimes, Eagle FC and their US cards sometimes. But I really try to do the main two for sure. The main three, so I include PFL in there. I do a lot of that stuff. 2 or 3 videos every single week breaking down fights. If you this is the only video you want to watch this week, or the 2 Bellator ones are the only ones you want to watch this week, I still appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for spending your time here. It means a lot to me. Go ahead and hit the like button. I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I love y'all.